Welcome back to Crime and Coffee. I am still Rochelle, and we have our coffee, Tim Hortons, not a sponsor. You can tell I'm Canadian by the Tim Hortons. So here we have Charlie Adelson taking the stand, part 2. We ended at their morning break, I believe it was, because Judge Everett had said come back at 10:15. But we were already almost 2 hours and 19 seconds in. And, well, we need a break from Charlie. Doesn't everybody need a break from Charlie? So here we go. Let me just bring it up. And we're off to the races. Maybe. I'm a rookie. Okay, and just going to get this to go. There we go. What if he got his peanut butter sandwich on break? That would really suck, you know. Knowing everybody else can go to like a coffee shop, get a Starbucks, or, you know, obviously not a Tim Hortons, but, and there you go just to get a peanut butter sandwich. Oh, excuse me. That's what I get for making fun of Charlie not getting a Starbucks. Okay, so we're still not there yet. I'm going to have to ask Patty or somebody. Those seats have got, these are long days. Long days. Like these. Oh, look, he looked, he's like, oh, there's a camera right behind me. Yes, Chuckles, we can see everything. There we go.
Is Mr. Rauschbaum back?
He stepped out for a moment, Your Honor. He'll be back.
All right.
He's finishing his Starbucks. Just want to take a moment to ask everybody to please like, share, subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Here we go. We got our coffee. Seriously, we need to have popcorn. We need to have, you know, treats. We got to do something to get through Charlie. Oh. Oh, I love my Tim Hortons. I have a funny story about Tim Hortons. I'll share it at the end. I was in Arizona. There. That's a cliffhanger. Come on, Rashi.
Then let him know we're resuming. All right. I'm prepared to rule on the composite exhibit. As a composite, I am going to sustain the objections on the grounds of both hearsay and relevance, and also on 403 grounds, as it may create confusion of the issues themselves. If there are isolated portions that you wish to offer on grounds of relevance, that are relevant, I should say, and also you have a hearsay exception 4, I can reconsider that. Are there any statements that you wish to pull out of the composite and offer separately?
I'll stand on the record, Your Honor. I believe they all go to his state of mind, as I
Lady
suggested
Kool-Lady
to you,
beside
showing
him.
what he was thinking on these relevant time periods. And without seeing them in the collection, you don't see his state of mind. So I'll stay on the record, but you're taking away a defense of his, which is his state of mind, and the jury should be able to see that. I'll ask questions about it. But
you certainly can examine as to generally what was going on during the time period. Again, part of this as well goes to the subject matter, which we discussed at sidebar. I don't want the jury to take away from what could even possibly be relevant in the composite to then also make that a prejudicial aspect of the deliberation in any way. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. We're happy to redact those sections, but if that would change your ruling, but
Well, even with the redactions, I think we still have to get back into specifically the 403 aspect of it and also the hearsay. But the court's ruling is what it is concerning that matter. You may examine, though, concerning the subject generally of the messages.
Judge, just for the record, I planned on doing the same thing. Oh, I have it. Yeah. Oh, maybe not. No. What date was it, Rhonda? July 14?
Oh my God, this guy is all
Judge,
over
I
the
plan on
place.
doing the same thing for July 14 through 19. I won't do it considering I assume it's the same ruling, but my same arguments apply to that.
Very well, Ms. Kappelman, do you have similar objections for the entire composite block of text messages?
Yes, sir.
All right, again, if there are portions that you wish to extract from the composite that you believe that are both relevant and are not hearsay, I will certainly consider those, but as a composite exhibit, I am going to find that they would otherwise be not relevant or hearsay or create 403 issues with confusion of the issues at trial.
Judge, I understand your ruling. May I
Go
make
ahead.
just one additional argument for the record?
Go
Just
ahead.
for the record. In the state's case in chief, they were allowed to put in phone calls showing arrows that they have no idea anything said on those calls. They're essentially the same thing as putting in text messages like this, except you actually see the content, right?
The chain of the traffic versus what is actually said.
They put in every call. Okay, they put in every call between
It was brilliant.
these participants on on those particular days, which, by the way, correspond mostly to the days that I'm offering these text messages for. They put them in for their own purposes. I think I should be allowed, under a 403 analysis, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, to put in the text messages, to show the pattern or lack of pattern of anything. And that's what these text messages show. But I could just ask the questions, but I would like the record to reflect that under a 403 analysis, it was allowed for them. It's not being allowed for us.
I wouldn't exactly say it boils down to being that simple, but your objection is noted specifically as to what the state was permitted to demonstrate in their case in chief goes to either demonstrating motive or direct evidence of what they believe show the elements of the charges. As to these composite exhibits, and again, I don't want to get very deep into what the subject matter is. There are messages that either go to embarrassing of the other witnesses or litigants in this matter, matters that are wholly irrelevant, or matters that do not demonstrate in any way the theory of defense as the court understands it. If there are portions, again, that are specifically relevant to
So sex
negating
talk,
either the
obviously.
motive or any of the elements of the charges and are not hearsay, as argued by the defense, I will consider those separately, but as a composite on the whole, the 403 issues, the relevance, and hearsay issues, I believe, compel me to deny their admission.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's bring back in the jurors and we'll continue.
You can sit down, Chuckles. Not ready yet. Oh, look, he listened to me. Oh, if it was only that easy, eh? Everett is a good judge, like a really good judge. I wish we had him up here. So what I was saying about those seats, it gotta be so hard. Like, and so this day was 9 hours, a little over 9 hours. Like,
Everyone may be seated. The state's objection to the exhibit is sustained. You may continue with your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. You had an opportunity to review your text messages from June 2nd to June 7th, 2014.
Yes, I have.
Anything in those text messages out of the ordinary?
No,
They're text messages about what types of subjects?
work, personal life, just no.
Anything about a first attempted murder in Tallahassee?
No, not at all.
Anything about any sort of violence?
No, not at all.
Anything about any sort of panic?
No, not at all.
I want to talk briefly about July 1, 2014. And just kind of to give you a roadmap. In March, you had dinner with your sister, correct?
Yes, at Yarborough.
And we've learned that at that dinner, Sigfredo Garcia thought about killing you.
Yeah, he was stalking me with Luis Rivera.
And we've learned through this trial that a first attempted murder on Professor Markel's life happened, give or take, 6 weeks later.
Yes.
Now let's talk about July 1, which is about 3 or 4 weeks after that. By the way, up until July 1, had you ever talked to, texted with, met Sigfredo Garcia?
No, not at all.
What happened on July 1?
July 1, I was going to take Katie jet ski.
I'm sorry, I had to stop it there because I am Canadian and I've never heard it said as July 1. Here, it's always just Canada Day. So every time he says July 1, I'm like, no, it's Canada Day. But hello, they're in Florida, Rochelle. But I chuckle every time. So if I chuckled, then you're going to understand why, because we just say Canada Day here. And I almost wanted to say, how can you not remember what happened on July 1? Because it's Canada Day. Anyway, I digress here.
Skiing, and I had the jet ski attached to the car, and I drove to her place in Miami, and I went to pick her up, and I I remember it so well. I got flowers right before I picked her up. I bought flowers from the guy selling them in the middle of the street.
Aww.
And I picked Katie up, and we started driving out of her complex, and we got about 100, 200 feet. And this blue car comes flying out of nowhere, flies in front of us, and slams on the brakes. And I've got a car, and I'm towing a 1,200-pound jet ski behind it. And she started screaming, "That's T, that's T, that's T." And I'm like, I almost rear-ended this car. And this guy gets out of the car, and he comes over, and he's screaming every kind of four-letter word at me, threatening me. His face was real red. My windows were up. And the guy was...
Okay, every kind of 4-letter word. Let's get that going in the comments. Different kinds of 4-letter words that Charlie Adelson, that Sigfredo Garcia could have been calling Charlie Adelson. Every kind of 4-letter word that you can imagine. Something to think about.
It's going crazy. And, I'm kind of a little bit boxed in because the front of my car was almost against the rear of his car. So I couldn't drive past it. And I had a big jet ski and a trailer behind my car. So I ended up putting the car in reverse, doing like a little bit of a 3-point turn, a little bit, swinging the car around. He then got in his car, chased alongside of us. And you can't, if you're towing a jet ski with a car, you can't go real fast. You don't have much acceleration. He was right alongside of us, rolled his window down, was screaming all this stuff at us. And when we got to the light, it was just turning yellow, and I gunned it. And I remember making a left-hand turn. And I said to Katie, I go, that guy's fucking nuts. And she goes, nuts? She goes, he's really calmed down. And I go, what do you mean he's calmed down? And she goes, the old T I know would have broken your window and dragged you out into the street and beaten your ass.
Now, that evening, by the way, let's talk about, you say T. Did you know Sigfredo Garcia under another nickname as well?
Yeah, well, she referred to him as T or Tuto, okay, or Sigfredo.
Now, that evening, did your father call you?
Yeah.
And what did your father say to you when he called you, Harvey? What did Harvey say to you when he called you?
He was worried about me.
Why?
Because he got a threatening message on his voicemail. And the guy was saying, something effective. Next time I see you, it's going to be mano a mano. Don't fuck with me. You don't know who I am. Something like that. And then hung the phone up.
Okay. Again, this was July 1, correct?
Canada Day.
And this is now 17 days before Professor Markel was murdered, correct?
It was.
So we have Sigfredo Garcia thinking about killing you in March before the first attempt, right?
Yeah.
And now we have him threatening you and trying to run you off the road just 17 days before the actual murder occurred, right?
Yes.
You're aware that the state's theory is that you are co-conspirators with Sigfredo Garcia?
Yeah, that's their theory.
Now let's go to July 5th. Your dad's birthday party. By the way, what was served at the birthday party?
We had the paella. And the
Paella!
Okay. And how many
I don't know.
people
I just got to do that.
approximately attended the party?
It was in their apartment. They probably had, let's say, roughly about 30.
Okay. Did you
Wendy
invite
said 50.
Katherine Magbanua to the party?
No, I didn't.
The party was in their apartment, which was where?
It was in South Beach. It was in South Bay at the Continuum.
Now, what time did the party end?
It went from probably 7-ish to probably about 11:30, 12 o'clock.
How far is the Continuum in South Beach from your house in Fort Lauderdale?
It's every bit of 45 minutes, depending on traffic.
That evening, where did you sleep?
I slept over at Katie's house
Why did you sleep over at Katie's house?
because my brother was in town for my dad's 70th birthday party with his wife and their kids. And then my sister was in town, and then the whole family was doing stuff the next day, and it was going to be at my parents' house, at their apartment. So I didn't want to drive all the way back to Fort Lauderdale and then all the way back to Miami.
Does Katie live closer to South Beach than your home in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, she's probably.
So she wasn't good enough to go to the party, but she was good enough to, let him stay over afterwards.
15 minutes away, 10 to 15 minutes.
And did you go back to your parents' apartment the next day on July 6th?
Yeah, I slept at Katie's place. It was one of only 2 times I probably ever slept there. And then I went back to my parents' place like for lunch the next day.
Did Katie come with you?
No, she did not.
No, she wasn't welcome.
Now, I want to draw your attention to June 16th and a late night work with your assistant, Erica.
Yeah.
Do you recall that?
I do.
I know you're not going to know specific times, but how late did you work with Erica that evening?
We worked till about 10 o'clock at night.
And what did you do after work?
We'd worked through dinner, so we were both hungry. So me and Erica went to go eat dinner.
And what time did you get home, approximately?
I got home about 11:45.
When you got home, did you speak with Katherine Magbanua?
I did. We texted or I called her.
And during that conversation on the 16th, but it's really the morning of the 17th, I think, because midnight.
Yeah, it was after midnight.
What happened on that call?
Katie was questioning where I was and who I was with, and was saying it was suspicious because I think I ended up calling her probably about 12:30 that night because I came home, changed, took a shower, and then when I finally called her, it was like 12:30.
You should have
She thought I
showered
was-
then
she thought I was
changed,
cheating on
Charlie,
her.
but oh,
And was it a heated discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I worked hard all day. You know, I didn't do anything wrong. I went out to dinner with Erica, and like she was just questioning on who I was with and what I was doing, and she was unhappy with me.
Towards the end of the discussion, what did you agree to do with Katie the next day?
I told her I actually don't. My morning off is canceled. I don't start work until 1:45 tomorrow. I said, if you want, come up here and we'll grab lunch.
And did you have lunch with Miss Magbanua the next day?
Yes, I did.
What happened when you had lunch with Katherine Magbanua on the 17th?
She started all over again with like questioning me about the night before, and then she wanted to make plans with me to do dinner on Friday night, and she got very upset at me, and she was just like weirdly adamant, like, this is Friday night, I want to do dinner with you. Like, why are you saying you don't know? Like, you don't know you're fine to go do dinner with Erica and not call me till 12:30. And just didn't stop, and we got into a fight at lunch.
So let's take that a little bit slower. So you meet with her on the 17th, and on the 17th, your testimony is that she was adamant that she wanted to have dinner with you on the 18th. Is that right?
Yeah,
And where did she want to have dinner with you?
she wanted to make dinner plans and go down to Miami.
Was that odd?
I mean, it was Friday night. She was my girlfriend, so from that perspective, it wasn't odd. What was odd is that she was so adamant, and when I pushed back on it, there was no push. She was like started questioning me even more.
Now, where were you going to work on the 18th?
I was working in Jupiter.
Okay. So we're in Tallahassee. So let's just make sure everyone knows where Jupiter is compared to Miami, where Katherine Magbanua is, where she wanted you to have dinner. How far is Jupiter from Miami?
I would say with no traffic, it's probably two hours and 15 minutes, maybe 2:30.
And so, and I might have said the wrong month. We're in July. It's July, not June. July 17th, correct?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay. So, why did you want to go all the way back down to Miami? And what did you tell Katherine Magbanua?
Telling Katie I'm going to be in the car for at least an hour and a half driving up to Jupiter. My back kills me when I'm in the car for that long. I got to drive back another hour and a half home, I got 2 offices I'm working in. I got 10 hours of surgery I'm doing. I'm like, I don't even know what time I'm getting out. And she was just like, oh, so it's just going to be another late night and you don't want to see your girlfriend on a Friday night?
And how did the lunch end?
I told her that, I said, you're acting like a bitch. I didn't call her a bitch, but I said she was acting like a bitch.
And
Same thing,
did you
Charlie.
leave the restaurant?
Yeah, we had some words, and I put some money down on the table, and we both walked out. And I'm like, I got to get to work. I can't deal with this now.
Did you contact her, or did she try to contact you during the day of the 17th, July 17th?
She called me while I was at work around 6:30, but I was still working, and I didn't pick up the call.
When did you speak to her again?
I was pretty pissed at her, so I didn't call her until after 12 that night. After I came home, I went to the gym, took a shower. I called her after 12.
And when you called her after 12 that evening, did you apologize?
We eventually smooth things over a little bit. Like I felt bad for saying that to her, and she was still mad at me and still wanting to see me. So I did smooth things over, but not entirely.
Now, the next day, you have several text communications with Miss Judge. May we briefly approach?
Approach.
Always getting into that issue that they went to sidebar earlier on. He's something else. Honestly. Oh, there's mentor lawyer, deep dive true crime. Ruth Markel. Someday I'd love to meet her. Just shake her hand. Like, she's incredible. I've read her book. It's amazing. I do want to read Wendy's book. Like, we know a lot of it anyway, but I refuse to pay for it because she's not getting any royalties from me. So I always check the secondhand stores, see if it's in a bin. So I don't know if anybody will see this video, but if you do see this video and you have a copy of, or you have a PDF version of Wendy's book, send it my way, please. Because I just can't see giving that evil person any type of money. I don't care if it's a penny. Well, we don't have pennies here anymore. I don't know if in the States if the States has pennies anymore. I'm curious. I want to see if the States have pennies.
May I continue, Your Honor?
You may.
That day, now we're on the 18th, July 18th. Did you speak with your sister that morning?
I did.
What do you recall talking to your sister about?
I called her in the car on the way up to work, and I ended up talking to her. She's told me that she was having the TV set repaired. I thought she had told me that Lincoln had thrown something at it and broke the screen. So she was getting a TV fixed. And then I was also, the reason I called her was because I was in a fight with Katie and I wanted to get her opinion on something. So I spoke to her and told her what I said to Katie, and she gave me sisterly advice like she usually does.
And again, that morning,
Here I am talking to
You're in
myself.
the car for
States
quite
does have
some
pennies. I
time?
had to Google it.
About an hour and a half.
where were the two? You were working at one or two offices that day?
I was working in 2 offices, but they're across the street from each other in Jupiter.
Okay. And during the call up to Jupiter, did you make several phone calls?
Yeah, that's my morning routine, and I was in the car for an hour and a half, so I was on the phone a bunch.
Now, there's several times where there is a phone call made, and then immediately after there's another call, and there's short calls, and then immediately after there's another call. Do you know why that was the case?
Yeah, because there's a stretch of highway between West Palm and up in Jupiter where you'll get drop calls constantly. So you'll call somebody and then you can't hear the person or it doesn't go through, and they start talking and you hang up and call them again. So the calls drop constantly up there.
Okay. Do you recall having
Oh, I
some
know that
text
pain.
message communication with a friend named Mike and also Katherine Magbanua about dinner that night?
Yes, I do.
And without getting into too many specifics, what was the general issue?
Mike had wanted me to get dinner with him because his house is kind of close to Jupiter, and sometimes when I'm up that way, I'll see him. Katie was still upset about the other day and feeling like I give more time to other people and questioning why it's a Friday night and I don't want to spend it with her. I eventually just texted with Katie and I apologized for calling her a bitch and telling her I said she was acting like one. I didn't call her one, but evidently to some people there's no difference.
It's the same
shouldn't have said
thing.
it, so I ended up apologizing and making dinner plans with her.
So you chose to make dinner plans with Katie that night, correct?
Yeah.
And where the dinner plans were going to actually happen, did you get that far in making specific plans?
No, but I said I just want to do something casual in Fort Lauderdale. I don't want to get all dressed up and head to Miami.
Okay. Now, the second office you're working in for a little period of time, right? That evening.
Right.
In other words, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Please.
You had a bunch of surgeries in that second office, right?
Yeah, they're usually packed.
And do you recall from a text message that around a little after 6, you were about to start a big procedure?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, you hear from your mom. How do you hear from your mom?
I had a missed call from her, 1 or 2 missed calls, and then she texted me, "Call us ASAP."
And why did you miss the calls? What were you doing?
I was in surgery.
Okay. After she texted you, call her ASAP, what did you do?
I stopped what I was doing. I could see the text messages on the phone as they come in, so I knew it was important. I stopped what I was doing, and I called her right back.
When you called her back, what did she tell you?
She told me that Wendy had just called her and that Dan had been shot and that it was serious and that her and my dad are going to be going up to Tallahassee to be with her.
How did you react?
I was shocked. I said, is he okay? Is he going to be okay? Are the boys okay? Or Wendy's okay? Like what happened?
And what did your mom tell you?
She said she didn't know any details, that it was really serious, and that Wendy's with the police right now and they're questioning her.
Now,
And you're
after
like,
you got
oh,
off the phone with
shit.
your mom, what did you do?
I went back to work.
And did you have some communications with people after that through text messages about how you were feeling?
I did.
And generally speaking, how were you feeling?
I wasn't feeling great. I was pretty upset about what I just heard.
Now, around what time?
Oh, I need a
remember,
BS button.
did you
I
leave
need
the
a
office?
BS button.
Probably about between 8:20 and 8:30.
Okay. And again, it's a pretty far drive, correct?
Yeah.
Even at that time of night.
Yeah, there's no traffic at that time, so I could speed a little bit. But
On your
Like that stopped
car
you
ride
before.
home, did you make phone calls?
seriously
did.
need a BS
And
button.
in particular, and we'll do it one at a time, did you speak with Katherine Magbanua?
Well, that's a big
Yes,
yawn,
I did.
Joel.
And what did you tell Katherine Magbanua on your ride home?
I told her that my ex-brother-in-law had been shot, and it's serious. And I just told her I really didn't feel like going out tonight, and just hang out at the house if you still want to come over. She said, "No, I'm still coming to see you."
How did she seem?
Seemed normal. I mean, she seemed concerned, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Now, are you aware that after that phone call, Katherine Magbanua had to frantically go around and try to get a babysitter for her kids?
No, not at all.
Now, did you speak with your mom on the way home to your house?
Yeah, like I called my parents also from the car.
And what did you find out from your parents?
That they were getting ready to leave, and that they were heading up to they were going to head up to Tallahassee, and that they were going to probably stop up in Orlando because it's late, and they wouldn't get up there till. So they're going to spend the night in Orlando and then go up to Tallahassee.
Now, you've seen text messages in this case where there's some indication.
Sorry, just going to pause it there for a minute. If they were very concerned for Wendy and the boys, why wouldn't they have just flown up to Tallahassee? Now, I know that some people are going to say there's no direct flights and then you got to fly, I believe it's to Atlanta, and then you got to come back. But these people are millionaires. If they were very, very concerned, like extremely concerned, they wouldn't do, I think what everybody says, it's about 7.5, 8-hour drive from Miami to Tallahassee. I don't know if it was my kid and my grandchildren, which I don't have any, but if it was, and I had that kind of money, I would charter a flight. I would do whatever it took to get to my child right away. If I was that worried for them or that concerned. And it just seems like there was no concern, no rush. Oh, we're just going to go from, we're on our way, but we're going to stop in Orlando for the night. And then we're going to drive up the rest in the day tomorrow. It doesn't ring true to me that they were so concerned for Wendy.
Your mom says outside your house, and 20 minutes later, after that text message, you say 10 minutes. Do you recall those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you see your parents that evening?
No, not at all.
Okay. When your mom says outside your
Yes
house,
button.
does that mean to you that she was actually at your house?
No, it meant that she was passing by my house outside it on the vicinity, seeing if I was home.
On the phone call that you had with your mom on the way home, did you discuss anything about your parents stopping at your house?
Yeah, I said, text me when you're close. If I'm home, stop by and see me, because my house is
Because there's no rush to
football
get to
field
Wendy and
length
the
away from
boys.
the exit of the turnpike.
And when they were close, were you anywhere near your house?
No, and I missed their text. I didn't get home for 40 minutes after that text came through.
When you got home, what did you do?
When I got home, I changed, took a shower. Changed.
Oh, you got it right
and,
this time.
I played phone tag with Katie to see where she was at. I think I talked to her after I got out of the shower, and she was going to be heading over to hang out with me.
You have a text with your friend Mike that said you went to the gym. Do you have a gym? Did you go to the gym?
No.
Do you know if you worked out in your house that night?
I don't know if I've got some workout equipment in our house, so I may very well have, but I didn't go to the gym that night.
Your friend Mike wanted to have dinner with you that night, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you get to the house, you said you called Katie after your shower. Why did you call her?
To see if she was still planning on coming over and what time she was going to be there, because it was already like 10:15.
And did she come to your house that night?
Yeah, she said she was going to be leaving shortly, and I think I even said either text me or call me when you're on your way.
Did she actually come to your house that evening?
Yes, she did.
Around what time did she arrive?
She got there about 11 o'clock.
What happened when she arrived?
When she arrived to my house, she came in through the garage, entered into the kitchen from the side door like she always does, and she just looked panicked and upset. I mean, she walked straight in and gives me this big tight hug and asked me, like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, just a horrible day." But she looked more upset than I've ever seen her. I'm like, "Are you okay?"
There's a slip. There's a slip right there. She looked more upset than I did. That's what he was going to say. We got to go back just a second here. Let's hear this again.
When you got home, what did you do?
When I got home, I changed, took a shower. Changed, and I played phone tag with Katie to see where she was at. I think I talked to her to hang out with me.
Let's see, that's going to be about
You have
Mike's
a text. Did you go to the gym?
No.
Do you know if you worked out in your house that night?
I don't know if I've got some workout equipment in our house.
Your friend Mike wanted to have dinner with you that night, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you get to the house, you said you called Katie
To see if she was still planning on coming over and what time she was going to be there, because it was already like 10:15.
and did she come to your house that night?
Yeah, she said she was going to be leaving shortly, and I think I even said either text me or call me when you're on your way.
Did she actually come to your house that evening?
Yes, she did.
Around what time did she arrive?
She got there about 11 o'clock.
What happened when she arrived?
When she arrived to my house, she came in through the garage, entered into the kitchen from the side door like she always does, and she just looked panicked and upset. I mean, she walked straight in and gives me this big tight hug and asked me, like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, just a horrible day." But she looked more upset than I've ever seen her. I'm like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Just come sit down. I need to talk to you."
Where did you go?
We walked into the living room.
And what happened when you got to the living room?
We sat down on the couch and she started to talk to me. And she said, "Listen, this is all my fault, but I had no idea anything was going to happen, but this is totally my fault. I spoke in too much detail about your family's personal problems, about your sister, Dan Markel, and the $1 million offer."
What did you say?
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "My friend killed Dan and he wants to be paid $250,000.
How did you react?
I was like, "What did you just say?" And she's like, "My friend killed Dan and he wants you to pay $250,000.
Okay, so that's fake emotion. That's fake emotion from Charlie. In the beginning, we saw true emotion when he was talking about his son, that little small clip of him saying something about his son. And he had to take a drink. He had to calm himself down a couple times. And even the next question that Rashbaum asked, he still had a shaky voice. He doesn't have that here.
$350,000.
How did you react?
I was like, what did you just say? And she's like, my friend killed Dan and he wants you to pay $350,000.
What happened next?
I stood up and I started cursing it. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And she's like, no. I'm like, who did this? Who's your
There's
friend?
no
that did this?
shake
And
in
she's
his
like, I don't wanna
voice like
say.
there was before.
I can't say. And I said, who was it? And she just kept saying, I'm not going to tell you. And I was like, was it Sigfredo? And she's like, no, I'm not telling you. And I just walked in my bedroom and sat down on the edge of my bed.
What happened when you got in the bedroom?
She came into the bedroom,
Walked
followed
into
after
the
me,
room where the
sat
cash
down next
was.
to me. She started telling me like, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, but I didn't know any of this was going to happen.
So why
And
not
I'm
call
like,
the cops
Katie,
right then?
I'm not going to be part of this shit. Like, I'm not going to be part of paying for a murder. This is insane. And she's like, look, if you don't pay in 48 hours, they will kill you. And I said, Katie, I feel like I'm getting extorted now.
How did she respond to that?
She got really mad at me. She got angry. And she's like, look, I'm not extorting you. She's like, I got dragged into this the same way you got dragged into this. She's like, it's my fault for running my mouth the way I did. But I'm
911.
not extorting you.
911.
Like, I'm trying to help you. So she's like, she goes, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the police? She goes, you go to the police, they'll kill you.
Did she tell you that they would just kill you or they would also kill other people?
She said, he'd come after you, he'd come after the family. Like, Charlie, you don't have a choice. Just pay the money. You said you had the cash. You said you were going to pay a third. Like, just do it. Like, I'm trying to help you out.
What did you do then?
I said, Katie, I don't have $350,000 in cash. And she's like, you said you did. And I was like, no, I cash isn't, I can write a check for $350,000. I don't need to take out a loan. And she's like, well, you have a ton of money in your safe. And I said, Katie, I don't have that much in my safe. I do have a lot. And I said, come take a look. And I walked over to my safe. I opened it up. And I'm like, here, take a look. And I took it out in piles and put it on the dresser next to us. And I said, go ahead and count. That's not $350,000.
And did she count it?
Yes, she did.
How much money did she count?
138,000.
So it wasn't 100,000, it was 138,000.
Correct.
What did she do with $138,000?
She put it in she had a big purse. She put it in her purse. And she asked me, she goes, how can you get the rest? And I'm like, hey, that's all the cash I've saved up from forever. And she said, can you go to your parents and get it? And I was like, if I go to my parents, my dad will go to the cops in a second. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to stop my dad from going to the police. Like, I could never say anything to him.
What happened next?
She asked me, she said, well, can you pay like $3,000 a month? And
just an odd
and
number.
I said, yeah, I can do that.
Now, at this point in time,
It's just an odd.
did you have any
I
idea that she was
on a
part of the
layaway.
extortion?
No, she kept saying it was all her fault.
It's like going to
and that
Kmart.
she didn't know any of this was going to happen. And she
I
was
miss
upset.
Kmart. We don't have a Kmart no more.
What did she do next?
She took her purse, her keys, and her phone, and she's like, I'm going to go call my friend and see if this works for him, and I'm going to try to help you out. And she walked out of the house, and my bedroom was right next to the front door. She walked out of my bedroom outside of the front door and closed the door behind her.
When she went out of the house, what did you do?
I just paced around my house, and I remember sitting in the living room. I got a wood coffee table, and I was just sitting on the coffee table, just in shock, thinking, what the fuck just happened?
What happened when she came back in the house?
Call 911.
She came in the house, and she was being the good guy and telling me that she's going to look out after me and she's so sorry this happened. It's the same thing she was saying beforehand, and that she was going to make sure that nobody pays me a visit. And she's like, I spoke to him. You can pay $3,000 a month, or you can pay the rest off. She goes, but the $3,000 a month you're paying doesn't go towards the balance.
What did you do after she told you that?
I just said fine, and I walked downstairs into the kitchen, and I was shaking, and I took a bar of Xanax,
Where did you go?
and I walked outside from the kitchen through the sliders into the backyard. I closed the sliding glass door behind me. I think she got the picture. I wanted to be alone, and I just sat outside behind my house for a while.
Now, when you came back into the house, what was she like?
She was just apologizing and just telling me that her friend's crazy and she's so sorry, and she ran her mouth too much about everything and about the $1 million offer, and she was telling me that she was going to protect me.
Did she take a Xanax as well?
I don't know if she did. She may have, but I didn't give her one.
Did she spend the night that night?
She did sleep over that night.
Now, why didn't you kick her out?
I was in the state of shock, and I didn't think she had anything to do with it. I didn't even want to believe that she had anything to do with it.
When you came back in the
I'd be like,
house,
"Get
what
lost."
happened to you next?
And 911.
The Xanax was really starting to set in. It's probably about a half hour I was outside. I remember going into the bedroom and sitting down.
I'd be like, I need to be alone. I need to be alone. Hear her car go. Listen to it drive off. Pick up my phone. Police? I need police, please. This is what just happened to me. So this girlfriend of mine, batshit crazy, just came into my house, told me that her friend just killed my ex-brother-in-law and took $138,000 of my money that I have saved forever in a day, and I want it back. And I want her arrested, and I want whoever killed my brother-in-law arrested. My brother-in-law's name is Dan Markel. He lives in Tallahassee. Call the Tallahassee police. My sister's being interviewed right now. Get somebody on this and get me my damn money back and get them in handcuffs. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. She's got your money. If you had nothing to do with it, you want your money back, and you want the father of your nephews, for him to have justice. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're arrested and put in jail. First off, you're not going to be paying $3,000 a month for God only knows how long, because it doesn't go against the principle. Like, this isn't Bank of America. Like, this isn't, this ain't TD Bank. Like, you're paying, this will be your interest, but none of that's coming off the principal. Come on. This is why his story makes no sense, because he could have called the police.
I sent the text to my parents to see if they were up in Orlando yet or where they were. And then I laid down in bed, and I passed out pretty soon after that.
The next morning, when did she leave?
She left about 8:30 in the morning.
And how was she in the morning? How was she acting?
She was apologizing and telling me how sorry she is, and she was blaming herself and saying it's all my fault for running my mouth, and telling my friend about this. And she was just telling me that she was going to protect me and that I wasn't going to get a visit from anybody.
What did she tell you anything in particular before she left the house?
Yeah, she told me, whatever you do, she said, please don't tell anybody about what happened. Like, don't tell anybody about this. I don't never talk about this. Never talk about it on the phone. She said, never call me up and start talking about this. And the last thing.
Well, if she did tell you that, Charlie, guess what? You should have listened, because that's all you did was talk.
She said to me, can we just pretend like this never even happened?
She leaves the house, and we're going to get into specifics, but that day, July 19th, where do you go?
I don't leave the house. I was home all day.
What were you thinking and what were you doing when you were home on the 19th?
I was sleeping a bunch. I think I took probably some more Xanax, just trying to relax. And I was just real upset.
That morning, did you speak with your parents and with Wendy Adelson?
I did. I talked to my parents that morning.
And what did you find out?
I found out that Dan had died.
And why did you call Wendy Adelson?
Because that was the first call I called after my parents told me that, to see how she was, see how the boys were.
Now, you're home alone the entire day of the 19th. Did you think about going to the police?
I thought about it, but I thought I'm going to get killed if I go to the police. It's not going to bring Dan back. It just seemed like a bad idea.
Over the days following, did you continue to go back and forth about whether to go to the police or not?
Every time I thought about it, I thought through what could happen to me, what would be the benefit versus the pros versus the cons.
And why didn't you go to the police?
I thought if I went to the police that they'd kill me.
Now,
Just
there are some text messages into evidence on the 19th. Text messages between you and Katherine Magbanua. I think there's 3 of them. Do you recall those text messages?
Yeah, we texted during the day.
And there are text messages about the weather and pool and going, and Katherine Magbanua going to the pool. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
What are those text messages about?
I was trying to show her that I was trying to pretend like this didn't even happen. Like, I think one of the texts said, I'm going to the gym. I didn't go to the gym that day. My phone will show I never left my house.
Now, you say that she said that you could pay it all at once, or you could pay $3,000 a month. That's what her friend would accept, right?
Yes.
Did you think about paying it all at once?
I thought about it. I thought, if I'll do it and it'll get these people out of my life forever. But then I thought, this is extortion. One thing I know about extortion is it never ends. So if I paid it all at once, I thought that may be more of a reason that they come kill me. Or if I pay it all off, they're going to come back and ask for more money.
In the days following the extortion, did your sleeping habits change?
Yes.
What did you start doing?
I slept with a gun in my nightstand ever since then. And then I started carrying my gun on me also.
I'm showing you it's marked for identification purposes only as Defendant's Exhibit 51 and Defendant's Exhibit 52. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay.
Take a look at those. Do you recognize those items?
I do.
Judge, I would move Defendants Exhibit 51 and 52. Well, before I move in 52, the 52 are some text messages. Are those text messages that you recognize that you kept in your ordinary course of dealings with text messages?
Yes, they are.
I would move in at this time 51 and 52.
Any objection from the state?
I have not reviewed these.
Please let Ms. Keppelman look at 51 and 52.
No objection, Your Honor.
Defense 51 and 52 are admitted at this time.
Now, on within 11 days after your extortion, did you do anything in particular to your house and to the Adelson Institute?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
A few days after it happened, I called up a camera guy and I got a whole set of cameras installed at my house and in my office, and in my office, like pointing out to the parking lot also.
Judge, may I public? I'm showing you what's marked as actually, let me show you the original. I'm showing you what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit 51. Is this a check for the cameras?
Yes, it is.
And how much did you pay for the camera system?
I paid $2,140.
And what date was the check made out for?
7/30/2014.
And in the memo line, what does it say?
It says camera.
I'm showing you some text messages from a couple days earlier. And these are text messages between you and your parents and you and camera Adriel. Who's camera Adriel?
Adriel is the name of the guy who installed the cameras. So I just put his name in my phone as camera. So it's easy to look up. Camera Adriel.
And here are you indicating that you put cameras in your house as well as the Adelson Institute?
Yeah, that's why there's two DVRs. There was one for the house and there was one for the office, and it's 23 cameras in total.
Why did you think it was so important to put all of a sudden a camera system on?
It was I was worried about my safety. I fully expected these people to come back and possibly try to kill me. So I just wanted to beef up my security system in the house and the office.
Okay, I want to switch gears a teeny bit. What was your sister like in the weeks following?
So, okay, put cameras in the house, around the house, at the Adel Institution or Institute. But what does he do every single day? He's driving around everywhere. So if these people were that much of a threat to him, when you wanted to have some way to check your car or something like this, because I'm sorry, if they were really out to get him, wouldn't that have been the easiest way to tamper with his vehicle? Because he's constantly on freeways, he's constantly on highways, or like I'm not too sure if they call them freeways down there or in that area, but he's always on a road. but he never thought of his vehicle. I think the cameras weren't for Sigfredo. The cameras were for him to know if police were around, or while he was at work to know if police were coming to his door. That's just how it was. It wasn't a fear of these people coming to get him. It was to make sure to watch the dentist's office and his house to make sure no cops were coming around.
The murder.
She was a wreck. I mean, she looked horrible. She didn't leave the house. She wasn't eating.
Before we go into that subject, I want to bring up one other thing about the cameras. Are there text messages earlier in the year where your parents are asking you to put up cameras at the Adelson Institute?
We talked about it, and I actually had a camera system at my house, but it was older and it was antiquated, and it didn't work really good. It was from like 2008, so the technology was 6-7 years old.
Those text messages earlier in the year to put up a camera system at the office, had you ever acted upon that?
No, we talked about it, but I never got around to it.
It's not until within a week or so after you're extorted that you act upon that, correct?
Yeah, I called the camera guy about 3 or 4 days after I got extorted, and it took him like a week to get the cameras and to set up an appointment to install it.
Let me ask you another question. And we're going to get to your mom learning what happened. But before we get there, after you were extorted, did you tell anyone about what happened to you?
No, I told nobody.
Why not?
Katie told me before she left my house that morning, she's like, you cannot talk to anybody about this. Don't ever talk about this with anyone. Don't ever talk on the phone about it. Don't even talk to me about this ever again. Like, nobody can find out, but I'm going to protect you.
Let's get back to Wendy.
Okay.
So I think you said Wendy was a mess.
Yeah.
Did there come a time when you went out to dinner with your sister?
Yes.
And how long after the murder was that?
I'd say it was about 2 weeks after, maybe even a hair more, but around about 2 weeks.
And what happened when you went out to dinner with her?
I picked her up. I said, what do you feel like getting? You want to get pizza? You want to get sushi? And she's like, I love sushi. So I said, all right, I'll take you to this. Like, I'll take you to a really good place for sushi.
Where did you go?
We went to a restaurant called Juvia. And it's actually a pretty fancy sushi place.
What happened during the dinner?
She got really sick. When we got to the restaurant, we didn't have a reservation or anything. They sat us at the bar. They served us a drink at the bar, and it was really it was one of those like martinis that have like 3 shots in them, so they're strong. And then we sat at the dinner table.
Were you drinking and celebrating the death of Professor Markel?
Absolutely not. We sat at the bar waiting for a table for an hour, and then when we sat at the table, we each had 1 drink.
Now, I want to move on to August. Well, before we get there, sorry. In July, did you break up with Katherine Magbanua?
Yes.
How did you break up with her?
This happened on a Friday night, and I'd say within a week, I met her. I said, "Come, let's have dinner," and we went out for tacos. And I said, like, we can't do this anymore. I don't want to be in a relationship with you.
How did she react?
I think she knew it was coming. I mean, there was no surprise on her part.
Now, in August, did you see her?
I saw her one time in August.
Why did you see her in August?
I saw her one time in August to pay her $3,000 for her friend.
When you paid her the money in August, how did you pay her?
I paid her $3,000 in cash.
And at this point in time, did you know that she was actually part of the extortion?
No, I thought she was. I thought she was not part of it. I was a little suspicious, but she just kept telling me that how sorry she was, and she was adamant that she had nothing to do with it and didn't know this was going to happen.
When you gave her the cash in August, did she make any request of you?
Yes, she did.
What request did she make?
She said, "Look, none of this money's going to her. She's giving all the money to her friend." She said, "Could you do me a favor? I need to get health insurance for my kids. Like, I'm helping you out. Nobody's going to ever pay you a visit. Can you give me $2,000 in cash for my friend and write me a check for $1,000 every month?" And that way, she said she'll cash it, give the money to her friend, and then that way she can get health insurance for her kids.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. She says to you she needs health insurance for her kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, rookie here. Okay, so I'm gonna start again. I am so sorry. So anyway, what I'm starting with, what I found is when they were talking about healthcare fraud. You've just spent a whole time watching me do this and nothing was coming out. Oh, rookie move. So I was looking in to see if there was some kind of somewhere to find out how many murder trials Rashbaum has actually done. And I was curious about the weird attachment that he has with the Adelsons. And I was like, it doesn't sit right. Something's not sitting right. Not with me, at least. So I came across his bio, and it says Daniel Rashbaum focuses his practice on white collar criminal defense, eternal investigations, regulatory enforcement. This is the part that gets me. He represents individuals and institutions in high profile matters, including those involving alleged violations of federal securities, the Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, price fixing, alleged violations of anti-bribery and anti-kickback statutes, insider trading, Charlie, money laundering, Donna, export violations, and fraud against healthcare benefit programs. Charlie just stated, I gave her a check of $1,000 so she could get health care benefits for her children. She did not work for the Adelson Institute, but I frauded the health care. Boy, oh boy. So, but the thing is, for me, is I don't understand Daniel's connection and why he's so, like Donna's like a pseudo mother to him type thing. And I just keep seeing the insider trading. For some reason, it sticks out to me. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it seems odd. There's something. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying Daniel done anything wrong. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying you don't have that weird of a connection with somebody that's basically not your family member or anything like that. But this line here really is really good. In Chambers, USA, Dan is described as a fierce defender of his clients. Clients also said he thinks on his feet like no attorney I have ever seen before. Oh, we're seeing how he thinks on his feet. He's scrambled. He's all over the place. He's got papers everywhere. He's actually having to ask Georgia what numbers things are, but he thinks on his feet like no attorney they have ever seen before. You can tell he enjoys the work. He enjoys that challenge. He enjoys the obstacles. That's the guy you want representing you. I'm like, I see with those lines, I see one of those TV commercials. Oh my goodness. Like, we don't have those TV commercials up here in Canada. We don't have, maybe there's a couple. But we get a lot of American channels up here, so we see them on there. It is with this energy and problem-solving ability that Dan has represented a countless number of individuals and companies around the globe in inquiries brought by agencies including the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, Financial Crime Enforcement Network, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, and local United States Attorney's offices and State Attorney General's office. Just saying, like, it's just weird, but we will get back to Charlie because I was very interested in that. I was very interested in. I still want to know how many murder trials he's done. Because some reason they must think he's a great lawyer for it. Like, he lost. He lost miserably. Miserably. And Donna's like, oh no, I need Daniel. I need Daniel Rashbaum. So we'll get back to this. And it's something to think about.
And she says to you, I'm getting none of the money at all.
Yeah, she said none of this is going to her.
But it would really help me if 1,000 of the $3,000 can be in the form of being on the books of your business, essentially. Yes. And did you say to her, Katherine, we just did a murder. I can't put you on the books of the business because that creates a paper trail.
No, we didn't just do a murder. I just got extorted.
Now,
this is a family that didn't care about
when
paper
she
trails.
made you that request?
I said, I'll do it for you. No problem. I mean, I wanted to keep her happy.
Now, before you did that for her, what did you have to do?
I had to call my mom because she does the books at the office. I don't even have the checkbook. And I called her up and I said, I want to put Katie on payroll at the office for $1,000 a month.
When you called your mom, what did she say to you?
She said, was Katie going to be coming into the office? Is she going to start working for us? And I said, no, she's not. And then she's like, well, what's Katie going to be doing? And I go, oh, she's just going to be helping me out with some stuff and different things. It's a long story. And I think my mom was someplace when I was talking to her on her cell phone because she didn't question me much after that.
Did you make any special requests to your mom about how the checks would be made?
Yes, I did.
What was your request to your mom?
I said, put them as give me like 4 or 5 checks at a time because I just want to hand them to her like that. So I said, write me a bundle of checks at a time.
Why did you want your mom to give you a bundle of checks at a time? Because
I only planned on seeing her one time a month, and that was to make the extortion payment. So I figured if I gave her 4 or 5 checks each time, that's all I planned on seeing her. Now, sometimes did you give her less than 4 or 5 checks at a time? Not that I can recall. Okay. Now, did there come a time when you went to go pick up the checks from your mom? Yes. And where did you go to pick up the checks? I went to my parents' apartment. And who was there when you came to pick up the checks? My mom was there, and I don't think my dad was there at the time. He wasn't there at that time. Was he there or wasn't he? She was alone. There was no one else there. Now, when you went to go pick up the checks, what happened and what do you remember? I remember walking in and saying hi to my mom, and she's like, oh, the checks are over there on the counter like you asked for. And I saw it was a white envelope and there was a stack of checks sitting there. And she said, what's Katie doing for you? And I thought we'd already addressed it, but she's working at the office. And I'm like, no, I told you she's not. She's like, well, $1,000 a month is a lot of money to pay somebody. And she
What were
said,
their workers
what
getting
exactly is
paid?
she doing for you? And I said, it's a long story. And then she said, well, I'm your mom. Like, tell me. Like, don't just tell me it's a long story. So this time she was like, I was face to face with her, and she was more persistent in asking me, what the heck's going on? Are you still dating her? And I'm like, no, we're definitely not dating anymore. She's like, well, why are you giving her $1,000 a month? This makes no sense.
What happened next?
I told my mom, I wanted to tell somebody, because if I get killed, at least somebody will know where to look or what it could have been about. So I wanted my mom to know what happened, but I also didn't want her saying anything to anybody. So I told my mom, I said, listen, I'm going to tell you something, but I never want to talk about it again. I never want you to talk to me about it on the phone. Don't talk about it anywhere. And please, whatever you do not say anything to Dad. Do not say anything to Wendy. Do not try to make me go to the police, because I'm not going. You got to promise me all that, and then I'll tell you.
And what did you tell your mom?
I told her that the night of the 18th, I got extorted for $250,000.
How did your mom react?
She flipped out. She's like, what do you mean? Like, what is this about? Like, you know who killed Dan?
What did she want to do?
She wanted to go to the police.
And what did you tell her?
I said, absolutely not. I said, it's not going to bring Dan back.
Doesn't make sense.
You're just going to end up getting me killed, or they'll come after somebody in the family.
What was agreed upon between you and your mom that evening?
That she was never going to say anything to anybody.
How about to your dad?
That not my dad, not my sister.
Why were you so persistent with your mom that she couldn't tell your dad or your sister?
Because I thought they'd go to the police. I didn't think there'd be any way to stop them. And these people told me, I was told the night of the extortion, you got 48 hours to pay up or you're going to get killed. These people were not messing around.
Now, your mom gives you the checks, the first set of checks
Yes,
that day.
yes.
And do you remember what month that was?
That was in September.
After she gave you those checks, would you periodically have to meet with your mom and get more checks?
Yeah, but not. I didn't even realize the staff got paid bi-weekly, so they got their checks every 2 weeks. So when I'd asked her for 4 or 5 checks, I was thinking like that would be good for the month. I didn't realize that was going to be like, 8-10 weeks.
Did your mom bring this subject up again?
She would ask me, "Are you okay?" She asked me, "Do you need anything?" She said, "Do you need money?" I'm like, "No, I don't want you guys getting involved. It's bad enough that I'm involved in this."
For the next 20 months, what did you do with regards to money and Katherine Magbanua?
Every single month, when I met her, I gave her $2,000 and the stack of checks to carry her forward.
And again, what did you think she was doing with those checks?
I thought she was cashing the checks and giving the $3,000 to her friend.
Now, we've heard a lot about gifts. We've heard about Lexus with 160,000 miles. We've heard about plane tickets. We've heard about, I guess, breast augmentation, but let's put that aside because I think that's a different category.
Yeah, because you only paid for one side.
We've heard about a whole host of gifts regarding over the next 20 months, you giving a bunch of gifts to Katherine Magbanua. You recall that testimony in this courtroom?
Yes, I do.
The gifts that you gave to Katherine Magbanua, was that part of the extortion? Were those extortion payments?
No, not at all.
What were the gifts?
Oh, I didn't add myself.
The gifts were me trying to keep Katie happy. And I didn't think Katie was any part of this extortion at all because she was
I forgot
constantly
to add
broke.
myself. Again,
she was
rookie
always-
move.
She'd be hitting me up for $300. I mean, there's no way that she was getting that $3,000 and
Well,
then
at least
asking
you
me
didn't
for
have to see me
$300.
laughing about
Running
the
short on
breast
this, or running short on
augmentation.
that, or can't pay the
Ugh.
car bill.
So I want to make sure that we're crystal clear here. The fact that she was always saying she was broke, did that make you more certain or less certain that she was not part of the extortion?
It made me more certain that there's no way that she's involved. I mean, she's telling the truth. The extortion never went up. I mean, she could have just raised the extortion payment instead of having to ask me for money. Every time she was asking me for money, I actually felt good. I felt like she wasn't part of it.
May I have a
You
moment,
felt
Riley?
good
Take your time.
for blood money. You felt, just gross. You felt good over blood money. Come on.
Showing you defendants exhibit 56 and 57 for identification purposes only.
Remember, I've got short arms, Judge.
Do you recognize these text messages?
I do.
One of those text messages from December 2nd, 2014,
Yes, it is.
and there's one of them from November 25, 2015.
Yes, it is.
That's the most organized we've
Are
seen.
these text
Rathbone.
messages, do you recognize them as being kept in your ordinary course of business?
Yeah, there was text messages from my phone.
Judge, I would move in these exhibits at this point in time.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are admitted at this time. Defense 56 and 57, I believe.
Yes. May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
The first message is from December 2nd, 2014, Defendant's Exhibit 56. And Katie is, oh boy.
Just wait for it to refocus.
Go away.
Rathbone's talking to the machines.
Do it a different way. I'm gonna have to make everyone sick. Do you recall her asking for a favor that she needs to borrow from you in December of 2014?
Yes.
Do you recall in November of 2015, she's talking about how she's embarrassed because her credit card was declined?
At Old Navy, he said. Yeah.
Now, as time went on, but let me back up. After the extortion, you break up with her
Yes.
and you see her only once a month or so.
It was once a month, except for the occasion of maybe there's one other time, one or two times.
Now, your communications with her in August and September, and maybe the first part to most of October of 14, through text messaging, do they dwindle, stay the same, or go up?
No, I was trying to have limited contact with her.
And as time goes on, however, what happens to your relationship?
I become more sure that she's not part of the extortion at all. And it really what I was going by is how broke she was. There's no way she got all this money and she's so broke and she's still working. And
Well, it's
you know,
only 30
I
some
just-
odd
I
thousand
became
dollars.
friendly
Of course,
with her.
you're going to still be
our
working.
relationship was very different, but it was different but stronger because I needed her for my safety.
Okay. And so you've seen some of the emails, and I'm sure the state will show you a bunch of these emails in cross-examination where it's clear in the emails that you're learning a lot about each other, you're texting each other somewhat, you're talking as if you're friends.
We were friends. We weren't boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. That ended, but she was protecting me.
Oh, that binder's still thick. Don't go back, crash bump. Don't go back. For God's sakes, don't go backwards.
Now, during this
Oh, he
entire
went backwards.
period of time before the bump, we're not at the bump yet. During this entire period of time, did she ever tell you who was extorting you?
No,
Did you have a pretty good idea of who it was, though?
I did. I absolutely did.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Move topics now. Before we get to the bump, yesterday we heard a call, which is SX 130, where your mom and you are showing your love for Wendy's boyfriend, who she doesn't love, Dave. Do you recall that?
Dave, yeah.
Was your mom involved in Wendy's life?
Yeah, she was involved, but I mean, she cared a lot about her. I mean, she's her mom.
Now, during that call, you talk about how Professor Markel's death was a tragedy. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Did you have any idea at that point in time that you were being listened to by the police?
No idea. I was driving home and I was in the car for a long time, so I was just talking to my mom about everything.
Now, during that call, there is some discussion about Wendy winning the lottery. If you look at the context of the call in its entirety, what are you referring to?
I'm referring to meeting Dave. Dave was a one-of-a-kind catch guy that I liked him a lot. I guess I liked him more than my sister did. But he was a great catch. He was super successful. He used to work for a government agency, sold his company for a tremendous amount of money. But most importantly, like, he really loved my sister. He really loved my nephews who don't have a dad anymore. And I mean, I even on that call, I was talking
Way to
about
point
like
out
a
the
6-year-old
obvious there,
farting on his head.
Chuckles.
I was over there. The kid was farting on his head, and he laughed. And it didn't bother him. So I thought he was a great guy. And he actually even met the Markels, Dan's parents, once with my sister when they were visiting the boys. I mean, he was just a great guy, and it was my sister's birthday. That's why there was so much chatter caught about Dave, because I don't think she was inviting him or something. So that's why he became a topic of conversation. And The Wire was from April, and my sister's birthday is in April. So those are probably the most amount of Dave calls I've ever had in my life. But the FBI captured a bunch of Dave calls.
By the way, I saw you get a little emotional there. Do you love your nephews?
Of course.
Would you ever take their father away from them?
No, never in a million years.
Judge, may we approach just briefly?
You may.
So see, he just did right there what he should have done right in the beginning when Charlie got emotional about his son. So that's what he should have done. He should have pointed out that this guy has emotions. This guy is not a cold-hearted snake or cold, Paul Abdul, is not a cold ice running through his veins monster. He is. Don't get me wrong, he is. But you would want your defense lawyer to do that. We'll skip this.
Members of the jury, we're going to take our lunch break at this point this morning. Once again, you're going to receive the same instruction that you've gotten since jury selection. Do not discuss the case with each other or anyone else. Do not seek out any news coverage or any information pertaining to the case.
Okay, we don't need
We
to
will
keep watching
resume
this
with-
because we know
Please,
that.
I think 1 or 2 calls as well.
very well. Do you intend to finish with your direct?
2 calls
Sorry.
as well. Playing them all. I am planning on going through a lot of calls, but not playing them all. And we probably be adding, I think, 1 or 2 calls as well.
Very well. Do you intend to finish with your direct by at least the mid-afternoon?
How long was I up there right now?
It felt
Let's
like
say until the
forever.
morning.
I have no idea, Your Honor. I anticipate this could go all day. But maybe it'll go, it's going a little quicker than I had anticipated, to be honest with you. I know that's
Okay.
surprising. But I would think it's gonna, I would think that it's gonna go at least another, it'll be a while. It may leak into tomorrow.
Don't threaten us
Right.
like that.
Unless either party has anything further to raise, we'll be in recess. Please report back at 1:20.
Okay, so I'm going to call that day 2. Go here, remove. So I'm going to call that day or part 2 because we're already an hour and 43 minutes into this stream. And so there's going to be a part 3 because it's just too much to sit through 9 hours of this. And Daniel is like watching paint dry on a wall. It's actually worse. And I just, can't take no more of him right now. But that being said, at the beginning of the video, I said I had a funny Tim Hortons, not a sponsor, just a Canadian story. So, oh gosh, this would have been probably, I would say probably about 7 years ago. Ex-husband and I took my son and my stepdaughter to Arizona for Christmas. We decided we were going to get away from the cold, and we decided, why not go to Arizona for Christmas? So we did. And while we were there, we found out that our Toronto Maple Leafs were playing the Coyotes. So my ex-husband and I decided, and he wasn't an ex-husband at the time, but he is now, decided we were going to go and watch the Toronto Maple Leafs play the Coyotes in Phoenix. So we're sitting there, and I'm a Canadian, and I love my Tim Hortons. So we got to our seats, we're sitting down, and I see this gentleman walk by us and went. So we're at here, there was seats here, and they were at the next one. So there was a aisle in between us. And he had a Tim Hortons box. And I looked at my ex-husband and I said, I'm losing my mind. I'm going crazy. And he's like, why? I says, because I'm hallucinating. That gentleman right there just walked by, has a Tim Hortons box. He goes, oh my goodness. No, he doesn't. I said, I'm telling you, it's either that or I'm going crazy. So I was doing this and I'm trying to look over, and I saw the Tim Hortons box again. And I looked at him and I said, he's got a Tim Hortons box. And he didn't move because he was sitting for me to get out, and he wouldn't move. So the crazy Canadian, I jump over the seat in front of me, and I get right, there's the gentleman's here and his wife is here. I get right in the middle of them, and I'm like, where did you get that? And the guy and the woman were like looking at me like, this woman is a whack job. And I'm like, listen, I apologize for being rude. I'm Canadian and I need a coffee. I've been here a week. Where did you get that Tim Hortons Timbits? And he goes, ma'am, it's just up there, and then you're going to take a right. And I ran. I took off. No, people were looking at me like, what is she running for? Like, it's not even close to the game starting. Nothing. And I literally, before I took that right, I could smell it. I could smell Tim Hortons. And this is when Tim Hortons became an official sponsor of the NHL, because they weren't before. And I went around that corner and there was maybe 2 people in line. I'm like, this place is crazy. They have no idea what they're missing. So I get in the line, I get up to the lady, and I said, because I drink triple, and my ex-husband drank double. And I said, I need 4 larges, 2 triple, and 2 double. I really didn't care about the Timbits. I wanted the coffee. And she's like, okay. And I says, what time is the last call for your coffee when the game's done? Like, is it third period? Is there a certain point in third period? She goes, we're usually probably done right at the beginning of third period. I said, I want the exact same order. If you don't mind, make it. I will be here. And she's like, oh, we don't usually do that. I said, listen, I'm Canadian. I'm not leaving here without my Tim Hortons. I think everybody in that arena thought I was the most craziest thing that ever happened. I got my coffee. I had a drink of it before I even got back to my seat. Actually, I had my first one half gone before I got back to my seat. And I walked down to that couple. I said, I am so sorry for how rude I was. I am so sorry that I might have scared you. I did not mean it. I'm good now. I've had my coffee. That is my Tim Hortons story in Arizona. And I will never forget that couple. I wish I would have got their names. I wish because I would have made sure they got a Christmas card every year, because without them walking by, without that Tim Hortons box, I wouldn't have known Tim Hortons was in the arena. So that being said, I hope you all have a great evening. I hope everybody gets their favorite coffee. I hope everybody gets to enjoy themselves. So have a good night, and thank you.